Have you ever set yourself goals only to find that they didn't actually end up feeling so great to go after them after all? So many of us are setting ourselves goals from a place of self doubt and fear. And today's episode is all about how to shift to a place of self kindness and compassion and still set goals that stretch us in the right ways. Welcome to the Soulful Sales Show, where we talk about believing in the value of your offers, getting them in front of your right people, and selling more of what you do in your unique way. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Sales Show. Today, I am chatting with Vicky Shilling all about setting goals from self-belief. We talk about the sneaky ways that self-doubt can show up with our goals when we're setting them and when we're aiming to reach them, and why actually acting from that place isn't ultimately helpful or sustainable for us, plus how to approach goal setting instead from a place that is both kind to ourselves and helps us to bravely stretch in the name of what we really want. So let me tell you about Vicky. Vicky Shilling is a self-belief business coach helping wellness professionals overcome self-doubt and take action to make an income from their passion for health. She shares tips and straight-talking action steps through her Just Start Now book and award-nominated podcast, community, as well as one-to-one coaching. Vicky is also not a first-time guest to the show. I actually spoke with her way back when my podcast was called Creatively Human. So if you want to hear that episode, which was all about overcoming the fear of judgment, it was a really good one. Go search for episode 61. But of course, stick around to hear the conversation in this episode first. Oh, and one thing I almost forgot to mention is that I am a part of Vicky's Summit, Business Backed by Belief, and I am speaking about selling even when you are experiencing self-doubt. So if you want that and all the other goodness that comes along with this free event, then go to the summit through my affiliate link. It's ruthpoundwhite.com/L/self-belief summit. It's going to be amazing. We are here today to talk about setting courageous sales goals backed by self-belief. And my starting question for you is basically, what does it mean to set courageous sales goals? And what does it mean that they are backed by self-belief?
Really great question. Obviously, courageous goal setting for me is all about maybe switching up the focus. I think sales goals, when we look at it or when we hear about it, we might be thinking it's, those big figures. I'm going to launch this and make X amount of money. I'm going to bring this many people through. I'm going to help and impact this many people. And on the surface, that's all brilliant. That is what we want. That's why we run our businesses. We want to have impact. And of course, we want to make money. But I know, and I'm sure you know from the amount of people that we've helped, that kind of goal can scare people and bring out a lot of this self-doubt, a lot of this kind of questioning. And so courageous sales goals for me is bringing it back to you and the bits that you are in control of. How can you set a goal where absolutely the aim and the focus and the drive is always to bring customers in, to help people, to impact people, but it's about setting goals where it's the bits that you are in control of. How many times can you be asking? How many very different ways can you do that? How can you challenge and feel courageous, push out of that comfort zone to invite people in to come and work with you? And like I've touched on, that has to be backed by self-belief, because you have to believe in what you're selling, what you're offering, your ability to create change in people, because that's actually the bit that they are buying. And to do what you say you're going to do. If you write down this month, this is something we do in my community. This month, I'm going to ask 10 people, or 10 times invite people into what I'm doing, or invite them and direct them to something that I'm selling. Do you believe yourself when you say that? Are you going to follow through? Can you build that evidence that you can trust yourself when you set a goal like that?
I love that so much. And yes, I definitely know from working with so many people. Like, I'm actually one of these people that I will set huge goals. I'll be really motivated by that. When I set my goals, I don't necessarily think that they're guaranteed to happen, but I also believe in the power of setting them, and that fuels me. But I know that we all have different styles of goal setting that motivate us personally. So let's back up a bit and talk about, how does it manifest when that self-belief isn't we're not necessarily being it's not necessarily part of the process when we set our goals. So maybe we're like, I want to make this amount of money, I want to make this many sales. We can't necessarily control that. It could be motivating to us, but also we could just be like pushing ourselves from a different place. Like how does it manifest when that self-doubt creeps into that kind of traditional goal setting?
Yeah. So there can be a lot of that self-doubt then when we put down a figure like that and we go, right, I'm going to make this much money, I'm going to sell this many things. A lot of stories and beliefs will come up, and that might be conscious, but it might be kind of subconscious, and at that kind of level it can then impact, like you say, and kind of manifest in what we then do or don't do to try and achieve that goal that we wrote down on a piece of paper. I think one way for me is that kind of conditioning that it's not very nice to sell, and that somehow it's not, maybe not even nice to make that money. Like, who am I to be writing that down and putting that as a kind of goal for myself, or saying that I want to earn that? So I'm always trying with clients to turn that into a statement, a belief. Is there a belief there? It's not nice to sell to people. I shouldn't be selling to people. I will be rejected if I sell to people, that actually they will find me a not very nice person, and I will be shunned by people if I try and sell. I think also there's that sense of kind of, are we annoying people when we're going to try and achieve that goal? How many times I'm going to have to ask people? I'm going to be bothering them, I'm going to be badgering them. Maybe there's going to be some judgment there then from other people. Oh, look, they're mentioning that again, or they're selling that again. So that belief we're holding, I believe I'm going to be judged when I sell. And what I've said at the beginning, I think, is often a really big underlying one, which is it bringing up those feelings of what I'm selling is actually not good enough. I am not good enough. I can't help people. Will this help people? Do I really believe it will get that change? So the belief, when we distill it down, if I sell this to someone, it's going to disappoint them, or I'm going to fail. So for me, all of that will come back to all of the kind of selling and setting goals of how many things you want to sell, then comes back into, okay, well, if I'm going to take an action, what's the belief system that I have underpinning what I'm going out there to sell right now, and how I feel about it.
Yeah. And obviously sometimes it's really, really obvious when that stuff is going on that it just stops people doing it. Like they have this kind of, I mean, it might feel like aversion, paralysis, procrastination, that kind of thing. What are some of the sneaky ways that it might also show up, like that people might not even realize that these kind of doubts are going? Because like you said, it takes work to bring them to our conscious awareness. How do we know that actually we might be operating from that place without even realizing?
I think one of the most common things I see is a bit of a combination of like overcomplicating things, or believing that you need to know more all the time. So putting yourself in a place of never ready. So that idea that well, I just need to learn a bit more about marketing, or I just need to get my website set up, or I just need to add another little course on, because if I say I'm a specialist in this, then I ought to do another qualification, so I'll just do that first. And that, of course, on the surface of it looks very productive, looks very rational and logical, but actually when that is happening, and I see it happen a lot over and over again, and you're pushing the selling bit down the line, there I think has to come at that kind of gentle, compassionate questioning of what's really going on here. Because yes, of course, we need some things in place. We need to have a product or service that's going to sell, that's going to make you money and help people get change. Yes, of course, you need to be appropriately qualified, but 99% of the time, the people I work with are more than qualified already, have plenty of ability to go out and talk about what they do in some way, shape, or form. But actually it's the belief underneath. So they can disguise it with, oh, I'm learning about marketing, I'm practicing social media, or I'm just dipping my toe in here, where actually it's just avoiding getting on with the selling and what that brings up.
Yes, totally. And then the flip side is the ones who are pushing themselves so hard, doing all the things. This is like more my end of the spectrum, doing all the things, showing up in all the places, holding myself to really high standards, got to send all of these emails, got to do all of these things, mile-long to-do list. And on the surface, it can seem like, oh yeah, I'm really productive, I really get a lot of stuff done, even when I am nervous. But it's just another side of the same coin, right?
Yeah. And I find that it's very difficult to witness that and to hold up a mirror very cautiously to those people, because often they, like you say, they're the people that say, but I'm doing all the things. I'm already doing everything, Vicky. I'm sending the emails. I'm showing up online. I'm running free webinars. I'm going to networking events. I'm pitching myself for the press, whatever it is, like I'm doing all the things and it's not working. It's not converting. And to me, that's the little red flag of, okay, what's the belief system here then? What is going on underneath this? Because we should be seeing some kind of results. Yes, again, I accept there's some practical level. We need to have a big enough audience. We have to actually get in front of the right people to sell it. But if you fundamentally don't believe in what you are selling and yourself, it doesn't matter how many things you are doing, how busy you are, how many emails you send, how many reels you create, how much you get yourself out there, it won't convert. And that is really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I guess I kind of said at the beginning, yeah, I love big goals and all of that, and it's really motivating, but that's when it can get actually quite damaging. And sometimes I feel like when I'm in that zone of wanting to do all the things to make it or to force it all to go the way I want it to be, actually it stops me from ever like just letting it go and properly relaxing.
Yeah, and relaxing's, I don't know, it must be a bit like people saying, stop trying to get pregnant and you will, or stop trying to find your ideal
Yeah.
partner and it will just happen. Stop trying to make sales and they'll just come to you. But there is a bit of an element of that, isn't there? Like you have to relax. You have to, yes, absolutely be goal orientated and take action, but you also have to completely let go of whether it happens or not, or when it happens. Which I know can feel frustrating, especially when the bank balance is looking a little bit bare and you're, feeling the pinch from it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about how to set that goal in the sweet spot. So we're not constantly pushing it away and focusing on other logic that seem logically good things as a way to avoid selling, and we're not overdoing it and forcing ourselves into something like massively high standards or overworking ourselves. Like, how do we find that sweet spot that stretches us, in a way that is helpful for us moving towards our goals, but that is coming from that grounded place of self-belief?
Yeah. I think the first thing to say, like underlying all of this before the bit that everyone gets excited about, which is like, get my spreadsheet out or my paper or my planner and get all excited about what goals I'm setting, is to say, we really need to look at those stories, those beliefs, and look at where they've come from, because we can keep rinse and repeating and doing the goal setting and buying all the planners. I can't tell you how many people in my community, I'm sure listening to this as well, have got a stack of planners that are going to help them magically, set goals and achieve them. But actually, if we're not doing the work before that to look at why do I feel like this and where is that coming from, where am I protecting myself from something that's happened in the past, nothing's going to change. It's not a new planner and a new goal, it's not going to make any difference. So doing that work where you can, finding books, support, coaches, whatever it is, to actually have a look at where is those stories around myself and my self-doubt coming from, and can I change them? Which is where, for me, when we've looked at that and we can identify, I believe that, whatever it is, if I sell something, I'm going to disappoint someone, at the core of it, and I can see where that's come from in my childhood. I'm using myself as an example, and that is stopping me showing up at the moment. Okay, my goal, my goal now to create a goal is to try and create an experiment or to set a goal which is going to challenge that, which is going to maybe just look at a different version that is true. So rather than me saying, burying the idea of, oh, well, I'll just disappoint people if I try and sell, oh, never mind, I'll just try and sell another 10 places on my program or 20 places on my program. What I actually need to do is go, okay, well, if my current belief system is, I believe if I sell this thing, it's going to disappoint people, what can I try out instead? How about when I sell, it might be that you can flip it completely into the positive. I'm playing at the moment with, when I sell, I delight people, just to try and change the D there from disappointment to delight. You need something ideally that you can get behind, that you do believe yourself currently. Might be that you neutralize it. People find my way of breaking things down helpful, or something kind of in the middle ground that is no longer the unhelpful belief system. And then creating little experiments, little tasks, little things for yourself to do to try out this new belief and to test that and build evidence for that instead. which I know certainly for me has really helped how then I approach selling, because rather than going into everything with this kind of head down, oh God, it's going to disappoint everyone, but I'm just going to force myself through it. It's, what if, Vicky, this was delighting people on the other side? You know, what would you do then? Like, how would you then show up to sell? So I also think it's about breaking things down into really, really small little, you know, action steps, and things. And sometimes it can be, if you really are not in a place to, like we've said, we might have got to a place now where we can let go of how much money it makes, how many people come through. If you really feel uncomfortable with, it needs to be this much money, for example, it needs to be this many people, can you just come back to what the goals that you're in control of? How many times this month or this week can I invite people to buy from me? Can I talk about what it is that I do? How many different ways can I find to tell people about my service, my offer, and actually that become your sales goal, rather than how much money did I make and how many people bought from me?
I love that. There's so much goodness in everything you just shared. I actually do a sell every day challenge in my membership, and that is exactly what you're talking about, because it's like I'm not saying you have to sell every day forever, but to do it for a focused period of time, it's focused on what we can control. It's not necessarily that the results will come then. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't come immediately, although I absolutely believe it will benefit your business in the long term. But yeah, such a good example of that. So what I wanted to ask you, I'm wondering, are you up for me asking you about how this is playing out for you right now in
Yeah.
relation to your summit? Because you have this big event coming up, and I know, because I have done two summits before, if anything is going to stretch me in my business, it is running a summit. So how are you applying all of this to your own, like, I'm guessing you've got goals for your summit,
Yeah.
and you've also got like things that you know are in like the bigger goals, but also the things that are in your control. Like, how is all of this playing out for how you are showing up and calling the right people into the summit?
Yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it? The kind of meta running a summit all about self-belief, and the amount of self-doubt and self-belief talk that I've had to give myself in order to get to this point, to even get it out in the world. It's unbelievable. Interestingly, when I was thinking about this, and knowing I was going to come and talk to you and your experience with the summit, it plays into a little bit of what we said there. The goals in terms of, you know, page conversions, how many people need to view the page, how much money I make out of it, how many people convert or buy an upsell or whatever it is. I'm completely detached from that. Like, I'm fine. I'm just really enjoying, I'm very early stages when we're recording this, but just really enjoying the kind of curiosity of what's coming in, what people are saying, what the numbers are like. I've got absolutely no attachment. Yes, I'd like to make X amount of money. I've written that down. I've put it on a spreadsheet, and then I'm tracking what's coming in. I'm focused, I'm taking action on that, but I really am not going to make it mean anything at all. It's just going to be data that I can play with, and that's been a long journey for me to be able to say something like that, but that very much is where I am. So anyone knows me in my business, I've just had a second baby, and so I've actually kind of, you know, had a period of time off, so this does feel like a bit of a, you know, re-emergence, and financially there is, I wouldn't say pressure, but, you know, there's a demand from my financial pocket to make some money for this to work and to hopefully help people. But again, I'm still detached from it. It's just like, this is an experiment. Let's play with it. Let's give it a go. I think the places where my self-doubt has come up have been more in the judgment rejection field of, especially inviting speakers in, you know, the real encouragement when you're doing a summit like this to think big and to go for speakers who have larger audiences than I do, that are very much experts in fields that I do not have expertise in, that really have clout and seemingly know exactly what they're doing in their own businesses, make more money than me, all of those things. That has definitely come up. I definitely, one of my reflections has been that I put that off. I put it off, and I put it off asking people way too long. And I know I didn't get the bigger name speakers that I wanted because I didn't approach them early enough. Basically, I just didn't give them enough time, because my belief was they're going to say no or they're going to ignore me. So, what's the point? Like, why would I bother? And actually, I've been delighted when people have replied, even just to say no and acknowledge me. Great, thanks very much. Love an empowered no. But even when it's, oh, can you tell me a bit more? Or, yeah, I'd like to consider this. Can you send me a bit more information? That's been amazing. And I've gone, why have I waited? Why have I waited? Why? Self-doubt, like fear of rejection, fear of judgment, fear of it's not good enough for them or I'm not good enough for them. So that, I think, has been the biggest place that it's shown up for me instead.
I love that you shared that because you're like, oh, these people who are bigger names than me have more class. There's probably people listening thinking, you are that person, Vicky. And like, it's so helpful for me to hear that from you. But I know exactly what we're talking about. I actually was not detached from the numbers doing my summit. There was a point in my last summit where I got very fixated on conversion rates to the point I kept tweaking my page constantly. And there's a point at which actually that's helpful. And then there's a point at which it becomes unhelpful. And I had to really zoom out and just think, well, what am I doing this for in the first place? And what are my guiding principles with the summit? And I just kept coming back to making a difference and being of service. I mean, do you have any overarching, I guess you could call them goals, maybe they're like guiding principles that are helping you to stay detached from those numbers?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, Ruth, it was chatting to you in the part of the setup process a couple of months back to keep coming back to that, because you're right, we can get tunnel vision on figures and conversions and how much money and is this tech working, which is another whole ballpark of self-doubt. I think talking to you and getting that reminder of, yeah, this is all about helping people understand their self-doubt more and step even 1% into more self-belief. Normalizing a lot of the conversations I'm having with the speakers where I'm doing interviews with them is around just normalizing, a bit like I've just said to you there, and you saying it's really great for other people to hear you talking about self-doubt, to get all of these people to go, it's really normal that we experience this. And if even one person, I know it's cliche, but if one person just comes through that and listens to one of these people go, oh, so I'm not crazy if I think that, if I doubt myself, if I question it, if it keeps coming up repeatedly. No, you're not. It's totally normal, because I think that shift, that normalizing, will create a shift and help people to take an action and do something a bit differently with that knowledge. So yeah, that's what I'm clinging on to, that if I make no money and only 2 people turn up, that those 2 people are going to know a lot more about their own self-doubt and self-belief out of the back of it.
I love that. I love the idea of a 1% shift as well. Going back to what you said at the start about we have to believe in our ability, to deliver on the thing that we are selling. Doesn't that just take the pressure off as well? Even a 1% shift could make a huge difference over the course of someone's life, but it's only 1%. You don't have to turn everything around for them. You don't have to fix everything, you know?
No, and that is how I've done it, especially with coaching, when it's like this intangible thing as well, isn't it? It's like, I can't say I've doubled your income, or I can't, and I know people in my audience with health and wellness, it can feel quite intangible as well, quite difficult. But actually, that's what I thought, like sliding scale. Can I move you from 5% self-belief right now, and then you come through, listen to a few of the speakers, come and join in what we are, the discussions, and you move to 10%, 15%, 20% self-belief and belief in my business. I will be delighted with that, because I think you'll see significant change in what you'll do as a result.
I love that. And also you having that as a guiding thing for you is going to help you show up for it differently. So it probably is going to help with those, oh, if only 2 people come, whatever. It's probably going to help anyway, but yeah, it's going to make a difference. I feel like this really leads on to just talking about the idea of self-belief in general, because I know with your summit, and it's not just your summit, obviously, it's the work you do with your clients, the work I do with my clients as well. We both believe and know actually the importance of helping people with their self-doubt and self-belief versus just, here's another strategy, here's another thing to do. Can you talk a little bit more about why that matters to you so much?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a big realization for me, and yeah, a big sort of pivot, because I trained as a coach and then very much went into kind of mentoring mode, I suppose, helping people, like you say, with the strategy. Here's what you post on social media. Here's how to write a website page. Here's, how to sell something. And people were very complimentary and said you break things down really clearly, really easily, which is great. But I would still, with some people, I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall. And not to, I mean, I appreciate I'm not the best coach in the world, but to be really I was really curious about that. Like, what is the difference between someone else who I can coach and give all the same strategies to, and they go away and do it, and they come back and go, great, Vicky, did all that, that really worked, this has been brilliant, what next? And someone else get stuck, absolutely stuck over and over again. And so that's why I did the accreditation with SAS Petherick, with the Self-Belief Coaching Academy, because that was what I was finding, that I was just hitting this brick wall, or people in my community. It didn't matter how much you broke it down, it didn't matter how simple you made it, how, you know, easy, like you say, like, here's what to do to sell today. People still weren't doing it. So that's where the summit was born out of as well. Like, I feel like, especially 2024, we've got a lot of information. You know, Chat GPT, you go on there and say, give me a sales strategy, and it would probably tell you what to do. So we've literally got free tools, podcast, books, YouTube channels, AI telling us how to sell, or how to run a business, or how to get a book deal, or, you know, whatever it is, brand ourselves, but we're not doing it. And that was the bit that I just really wanted to be curious about. And I want other people to be curious about as well. Because again, when we can acknowledge it, when we can see it for what it is, then we can start to shift it and change it, and actually start utilizing all these amazing strategies that are out there.
Oh, yeah, so true. So what are the kind of things that people can expect from the summit in relation to building their self-belief?
Yeah. So we've split it into 3 days. So it's across the 3 days. The first day is all about believing in yourself and your own kind of strengths, a lot of things that maybe you would perceive as weaknesses or bad things, making mistakes, and you know, being sensitive, and all of that kind of stuff that we would normally assume and try and suppress and push down, really acknowledging who we are and embracing that. Second day gets into some quite specific goals, believing in your goals. So we've got people talking about how to have the self-belief to get a book deal, or open your own premises, or you know, post what you want on social media, or get featured in the press and be, you know, featured on TV. Because again, we know some of these things are people, they have these as goals, and yet that self-doubt is really, really there and quite loud, shouting that down. So we go into that on the second day. And third day is all about believing in your business. So really looking at things like we've been talking about, you know, selling, pricing yourself, branding yourself, all of these other things that, again, we've got all the strategy, but what I want to dig into with the speakers is, how do we actually believe in ourselves, and believe that we can, taking that action is A, we can take that action, and B, that it's going to have some great outcomes for us, change how we're thinking about it. So that's kind of how it's structured. The idea that we've already said is that you will come through that boosting your self-belief in yourself and your business even 5-10%, so that you start taking a few more actions.
So juicy. I'm so happy to be part of it, and that all of that stuff is so important. And I know for me, there was a point at which I couldn't even imagine the true goals that I really wanted, because I was so stuck in that place of self-doubt. And even just using that word stuck, I feel like it doesn't sound as compassionate as I mean it, but like I do have absolute compassion for myself for being stuck in it, and everyone else who is listening to this and thinking, oh, I'm doing that thing, or I'm putting off the selling, or I'm doing that thing, or I'm, you know, pushing too hard, and all of that. What just to like round off this chat about self-belief, if you don't mind sharing, what has been your most powerful shift that you have gone through in your own journey with believing in yourself?
I think it's the one that, when you ask that question, the thing that comes up for me, where I feel I've shifted from, it felt impossible and like a constant, like quite difficult working over and over again in my head of, no, don't think like this, think like this, to where I am now, where it is habitual and natural, and how I think is certainly the ability to earn money, to have money, and earn it through something I have created. I think when you've never done that before, so I'd always been employed, you know, did contract work even, but, you know, I was serving someone else's bigger vision. I was facilitating what they wanted to do with the organization. When I first started my own business, that self-doubt in, is this real, you know, is this actually a thing, can I make money from this, and is that possible, felt like a really big shift. Like I had to keep working on it. It felt exhausting by the end of the day to keep listening to my brain going, this is ridiculous, just stop doing it, just give up, this is not a thing, you know, step away from the computer, go and get a real job, you know, those kind of thinkings, to now where I am today. I'm not saying I never go into, oh, maybe you should just go and get a job, because that voice is still there, protective, you know, protective voice. But that real ability now to be like, yeah, I know how to sell, I know I can earn money, I have the evidence, I've done it, and I don't have to keep doing that mental exercise constantly, because I've reprogrammed my belief system, I suppose, effectively, from I don't believe, or I believe if I, you know, I will fail, or I will be rejected, or it's going to disappoint people, into I believe this is possible for me, and that I'm helping people, and that it is something I can do and can achieve.
What were some of the practices or shifts along the way that helped you believe that specifically about yourself? Because I think it's one thing seeing other people do it. We can often have thoughts like, oh, well, it's okay for them, but not for me.
Yeah.
What really was the shift for you believing it for yourself?
I think backing myself and investing in myself. Again, that's going to sound really cliche. I think it was, like you said, that acknowledgement that my goals are bigger than this. Like I can keep trying to figure it all out and doing it very slowly. But I think the leap and the shift is when you go, no, I'm going to own this. I'm going to back myself, and I'm going to invest in someone who can really help me. And starting to spend money and invest money in people that could help, and actually surrounding myself, then going into masterminds, courses, groups with people who were further ahead, quote unquote, than me and my business. And that real, like, literal moment where you're sat in a room with people going, oh, we're all just worried about the same things. It doesn't matter whether you've earned 10 grand or 100 grand or a million. We're literally all sort of discussing the same things. We are all the same. And I think that was the moment of realization, like, well, if they can do it, then I can do that. I can do that as well. You know, that's possible for me. But I had to take that leap and invest and get in that room, I think, to be
Yeah.
able to think like that.
Oh, that is absolutely believe in that too. And also, isn't that just why it's so amazing to have these conversations, and also like the conversations you're having in your summit, and just real people sharing their real feelings and how they work through it. I love that. Thank you. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you three quick fire questions before we finish. The first one is, beyond financial success, what impact do you hope to have in the world through your work?
Biggest thing for me is, my mantra is just start now. I want to know that people have taken more action than they might have done without coming across me, without my encouragement, that they do something that they might have never otherwise done, and that pleasantly surprises them, that they could do it, and that it actually felt quite good to do it, and that hopefully that is a little snowball effect that will keep going. That's my biggest satisfaction that I hear from people when they come across my podcast or my book or something. I put it down, or I stopped listening, and I did something that I wouldn't have done otherwise. That for me, like, gets me up in the morning.
Beautiful. And question two is, if you could give a message of inspiration and encouragement to past you earlier on in your journey, what would that be?
I mean, I touched on it a little bit. Those, like I say, when I got started, there was every week I was in tears on the sofa. Is this going to work? So I think I would be saying to myself, you are not going mad. This is a thing. You will become good at it if you persevere and you keep going. I say this to my 3-year-old all the time. We're getting good because we're practicing it. That's the same thing. It will make money. It is, you know, just keep going.
Just keep going. I totally agree. And finally, what does soulful selling mean to you?
Soulful selling to me is selling completely reframed from the usual pushy, dodgy second-hand car salesman type of association, into selling because you genuinely believe in yourself and what you do, and that you can help people. So you literally get to a place where you can't stop talking about it and telling people about it. Like, that for me is, it's coming from the soul. That's soulful selling.
Love it. Thank you so much, Vicky. And I will make sure the summit links go to the show notes. Actually, I'll pre-record something that goes after this bit with the link. And I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And if you want to find out more about Vicky and her work, you can find her at vickyshilling.com, on Instagram at vicky.shilling, and Facebook at Vicky Shilling Coaching. And of course, go sign up to Vicky's Summit. It is happening now if you are listening to this episode at the time of release. It's called Business Backed by Belief. It's free, and my affiliate link for that is ruthpoundwhite.com/L/self-belief summit. I am a speaker. My presentation is all about selling even when you are experiencing self-doubt. So I will see you there. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Soulful Sales. If you have a moment to rate and review, know that it really does make a difference. And if you'd like to carry on the conversation, then you can connect with me on Instagram at Ruth Poundwhite, sign up to my newsletter at ruthpoundwhite.com/newsletter, or my personal favorite, join me inside the low ticket membership at ruthpoundwhite.com/membership. And keep doing what you're doing, because your work really does matter.